What minor injustice was wrought upon you as a child that you're still salty about today? When I was 4 I had a little red rocking horse necklace. It was my favorite. I wore it to a puppet show my dad took me to one day and took it off and put it beside me. The kid next to me picked it up and wouldn't give it back. We fought. My dad told her dad he didn't recognize the necklace and let her take it. I'm 45 and still salty. We were on a field trip to some Washington forest and the ranger started asking about products that grow in or are made from forests. 3rd grade me, who had just discovered in some ranger rig article that latex rubber comes from tree trunks, confidently raised my hand to share a rubber from trees. Now that doesn't sound right, does it? And she moved on to another. 35 years later, and the salt is still there. When I was about 6, during day nap time I had to go pee. The teacher said I couldn't go because I'd already gone once. I hadn't. So I lay back down and proceeded to pee my pants. My mom would arrive to pick me up before nap time was over. When she arrived she saw my wet pants and asked me what happened. The teacher was standing right there and I was so embarrassed and ashamed that I said something to the effect of somebody poured a glass of water on me. It took me 30 years to realize that only allowing kids to go to the bathroom once every 4 hours is messed up, and even if I had already gone once. It takes a real ducker to not let a little kid go to the bathroom and then to stand there while they make up stories to explain why they wet their pants. I hope that lady has painful incontinence. My 2nd grade teacher had a reward system for grades. It was a candy dispensing machine that you twist and candy came out. 2 twists for an A and 1 twist for a B. I got a B and got my candy, gave it to someone else, then went to sit down and she accused me of taking an extra twist and told me stealing was wrong. I told her I actually took one and gave it away cause I didn't like chocolate and thought M milliseconds were nasty, and she told me we don't call things nasty and made me go to my desk and put my head down as a punishment. Teacher took my 2 feminine long pencil and sold it to another student. We had a special arts and crafts week when I was about 6, maybe younger. I made my dad a Christmas stocking out of clay because I'd always thought it was unjust that he didn't have one. It was going to be my Christmas presents to him. I took it to the teacher to show her, and so it could be fired later. She methodically destroyed it by balling it up in her hands and then tried to put it down to a brain fart. I was shocked, but mostly I wanted a replacement stocking. Since it was meant to be a gift I asked her to remake it for me, since she, a teacher, would be allowed to use the clay anytime. But I only had a few minutes left. The next day I was told I'd been bad, and I wasn't allowed to participate in the arts and crafts week anymore. And that was that. My parents often didn't buy me the gift I wanted because my sister, who was 13 years older than me, would have gotten jealous and thrown a fit. Once a week, in kindergarten, they would pick a name of a kid who would win a toy. Only good kids could participate. I was Elway, a good kid, but not really lucky. My name got picked only once in the whole year. That day, unfortunately for me, I was next to a kid who would not shut up during the lesson. I spoke once to ask him to please stop talking. Guess who the teacher chose to punish for disturbing the lesson? That's right, me. Didn't get my toy. My uncle said he'd pay me to mow his lawn while they lived in Hawaii for a year or so, and then never did. Someone's phone went off in class, so teacher demanded that person turn their phone it. No one budges. She holds us in class for a good 20 minutes into the next period, antagonizing us about this phone that rung. Eventually she let us go and warned all other teachers about this phone incident. My 8th period teacher then gets involved and antagonizes us all again. Said he was gonna stand out in the hall and whoever knows anything to report to him. Some kid went out there and said it was my phone. I got yelled at, got written up for Saturday detention, and later that year found out the kid who told on me was the one whose phone rung in class. When I was younger I wanted a Sega Dreamcast. My parents wouldn't just buy it for me, Since I already had enough Nintendos, I got a job at Hollywood Video. I couldn't even drive yet, so I would ride my BMX to work in my tuxedo uniform. When I saved enough money, I told my parents I was going to buy it myself. They told me no. When I asked why, they said it was to teach me that I can't always get what I want, even if I can afford it. I bought one anyway and successfully hid it from them. Every night when I went to bed, I'd hook up the Dreamcast and play as quietly as possible. I still give them shit for that decision, but they stand by it. In 4th grade our teacher told us to write a paper about what we thought of our school. Now our school wasn't great, and I was homeschooled up until that year, and struggling with the change, so wrote about my frustrations, and how I was generally unhappy with it, and she insulted me in front of everybody until the point that I cried, and then told me I should get up and read the paper to the class. I refused and she made me rewrite that paper until it was positive. You know, instead of trying to help me with the problems I had. When I was younger, my mother-in-law didn't have much money, like at all really. I really wanted a telescope, because at the time I was super into space exploration, and I kept seeing people talk about looking at the planets through a telescope. Mom picked one up from a yard sale that was missing all its lenses. Everything you looked at was blurry. I tried for 2 months straight to figure out a way to use it, but to no avail. My little sister has always wanted to do everything I want to do, to a point I no longer talk about things I'm interested in, as she gets literally everything she could possibly need for these interests, while I had to make do. Anyway, she got a brand new Discovery Channel telescope with fancy lenses and shit, and she hasn't taken it out of the box once. We were making plastic bead necklaces in 1st grade as a class. There was a big bowl in the middle of the table that everyone could pick beads from and add them onto the necklace. Most of the beads are various shades of blue. I found this neat looking green one and added it to my necklace. This kid who was sitting next to me looks at the necklace that I'm making and says that bead is mine. I look down and see that it's the unique looking green one that he's pointing at. I tell him that clearly the bead is already on my necklace and that it's first come first serve. He goes to the teacher and tells her that I took his bead. Teacher doesn't ask me what happened or verify the story. Takes my necklace from out of my hands. Takes every bead off of my necklace and gives the green bead to this other kid. Every time I tried to protest, she just talked over me and told me it was wrong to take other people's things. Complained to my parents. Parents talked to teacher. Teacher said she didn't remember it happening. Never got my bead back. The kid also moved to a new state weeks later. We never saw him again. Still salty. A teacher thought I was talking when I was the only silent kid in the class and didn't let me do some sort of activity the rest were doing. I used to get 2 comics delivered on Saturday mornings. Highlight of my week. Wasn't allowed to read them unless I finished my breakfast. I felt really sick and didn't want to eat. Dad ripped up my comics. As I was protesting, they noticed a few red spots on my arm, took off my shirt, and I had measles. No apology, no comics. I was so mad that I'm now 41, and it pisses me right off. In kindergarten, we sat on this foam mat made out of large puzzle pieces, and we were all assigned one. My puzzle neighbor, Tommy, threw his garbage onto my square. Every time I pushed it off, he'd put it back. I eventually got mad and told him to knock it off, and the teacher noticed and yelled at me for throwing garbage into his square. I sat out for the rest of the day and my pin was brought down to bad day. I accidentally broke his nose on the metal spider a few weeks after during tag, though. When I was 15, I queued up for 2 hours to get in the first carriage for the stealth ride at Thorpe Park. When it was my turn, Craig David walked up the exit steps and sat in the front row. He and his entourage then stayed on the ride for another go round. I just had to stand there awkwardly on the platform waiting for him to get bored and leave. That was 16 years ago, and I'm getting riled up again just thinking about it. As a 15-year-old, I needed dental surgery to remove excess skin from my gums after some serious orthodontic work over the years. My teeth were so far apart that when they were eventually brought back in line I had a heap of loose skin on my gums. So my mum thought it would be appropriate to keep her weekly golf game and make me ride my bike to the oral surgeon, get the surgery, and then ride home again afterwards with a mouth full of stitches, gauze and a numb face. Yes, I drooled blood all down my shirt as I struggled to breath while riding a few kilometers home after mouth surgery because my mother wanted to play golf that day. She's a great mum. But duck me, she didn't win any prizes that day. My Spanish teacher in elementary school would give me more work to do and extra sections on my tests because I was the only one in the class that already knew Spanish, and it was like busy work, not helping me improve my Spanish even more. And she would mispronounce my name because I have a double L. She'd pronounce it like a Y, which is in theory correct, but that's not how my parents intended, and it makes my name sound ugly. I'd correct her but she'd continue. I had a high fever for several days. Couldn't walk, couldn't sit, couldn't pee, couldn't sleep. My medical parents kept saying I just had the flu. It's the flu. It's just the flu. It'll pass. Fever on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's at 104. I'm barely able to move and function. I'm in agonizing pain. But it's the flu. Just give it time. Wednesday evening. I felt a pop and felt better. You're just on the back end of the flu. You're recovering. Thursday morning my dad finally drives me to the ER because I'm now jaundice and am really dizzy. My appendix ruptured. I spent 9 days in the hospital because the infection was attacking my entire body due to sepsis. 22 years later. Still ducking mad about it. Giant scars. I had surgery last year to remove an entire abdomen, father-in-law with scar tissue because of the sepsis. The scar tissue rooted my entire bowel and took over an ovary and my kidneys. But it was just the flu. One Friday in the first grade I was handed a math worksheet featuring a clown holding a bunch of balloons, each containing a single-digit addition problem. After father-in-lawing and all the answers, we were supposed to color the odd-sum balloons red and the even ones blue. Thing is, somehow in the course of being 6 years old I had lost my red crayon. I did, however, still have my red-orange crayon, because that useless color has only been unboxed a total of 5 or 6 times in its 87-year history link, so that is the color my odd balloons became. Through what I imagine to be intense professional squinting, Missy was able to detect the unwelcome orange wavelengths reflecting off of my worksheet and requested in writing that I please see her after class. I did, at which point she began slowly and continuously circling the word red on my paper while condescending to me about the importance of reading instructions. I was forced to concede that I had not, strictly speaking, followed them, and as a result I had to skip father-in-law strip Friday. Yes, I've been holding on to this for a long time so that I could redo the entire worksheet with a borrowed red crayon. Even at 6. I knew that we both knew that the point of that worksheet had nothing to do with distinguishing red from almost red, and I have never forgiven Missy for her pettiness in that moment. I never will. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe,